No, to dirko sem si pa res želel videti, jo izkusiti. Ker pri 24 urah Le Mana res ne gre samo za to, da dirkači nabirajo kilometre, se prehitevajo. Tisto je Formula 1, tisto je 2-urni rock koncert. Tu pa gre za vikend doživetje, za poletni festival, za noč, ki ima seveda svojo moč, pa za tisto čarobno atmosfero, ki se prav vsakič splete. Seveda, na festivale se gre kampirati in zato smo tudi mi letos za obisk Le Mana izbrali takšen način prenočevanja. Ampak zdaj, ko smo nekako uredili vso to množico vtisov, vso to množico posnetkov, zdaj vam lahko povemo, kaj nas je najbolj fasciniralo v Le Manu letnika 2021.
This is my 16th Le Mans 24 hour, and this is probably the most special place on earth for me when it comes to sport, to racing. Even now, after this many Le Mans 24 hours, when you're at the beginning and the start of the race, and they play the music, and it's the Space Odyssey change just before they come into the Ford chicane, I still get goosebumps now. And that feeling I don't think will ever go from this event. It's so special.
COVID-19 je imel vsekakor zelo velik vpliv na organizacijo letošnjega Le Mana. Prisotnih je bilo lahko samo 50,000 ljudi. To je komaj petina, kar jih pride v normalnih letnikih. Tako da letos se je dalo premikati svobodno, pa tudi nasploh je v Le Manu dovolj ovinkov, da se lahko pač ta ogromna množica ljudi porazdeli. Fasciniralo nas je dejstvo, da se v Le Manu prav noben ni nadejal lahke zmage Toyote. Klepetal sem s fani, klepetal sem v pedoku. Še tik pred koncem so bili prav vsi na trnih. To je Le Mans, tukaj se vedno kaj zalomi. In sploh Toyota je imela v Le Manu že tolikokrat smolo, da je prav vsaka Toyotina zagata na tokratni dirki vzbudila enormno zanimanje. Ko je v prvem krogu ena od Toyot obstala ob stezi, takrat je bila množica na trnih. Potem pa je komentator zavpil "It runs". Takrat smo lahko podoživeli povsem enake občutke, kot takrat, ko je ekipa Top Geara ugotovila, da povsem razbiti Hilux še vedno užge in pelje. No, tokrat se je razpletlo tako, da je četrto Toyotino zmago prinesla posadka, ki je bila tudi največkrat razočarana. In tisto, kar nas je fasciniralo, Toyotin šef se je dirkačem opravičil. Pustilo nam je tudi vtis dejstvo, da smo imeli dogovorjen intervju z enim od dirkačem. In seveda to je med dirko težko urediti. Do tega intervjuja ni prišlo, kajti kolega v ekipi nikakor ni uspel nabrati dovolj spanca, čeprav je zanj skrbela osebna maserka, vodeno meditacijo smo uredili, pa ni šlo. No, nasploh si dirkači med samo dirko pomagajo tako, da gledajo stare, še 1000krat videne filme, na katerim pa očitno pomaga, da se kar zvrnejo v spanec. No, v boksu nasploh velja, da kamorkoli greš, karkoli počneš, to počneš s čelado na glavi. Ker nikoli ne veš, kdaj bo nastopila izredna akcija. In bil sem v boksu ekipe High Class Racing, ravno takrat, ko so morali narediti remont zadnjega krilca. In pokleknil sem v najbolj skriti kot in snemal. Veliko več je tistih hitrih postankov. Da se lahko ti hitri postanki res zgodijo hitro, poskrbijo inženirji v gumarskih delavnicah tam bolj zadaj. No, kaj se med vožnjo dogaja v sami gumi? No, to v boksih skrbno stalno nadzorujejo. No, to funkcionalnost so gumari že prenesli tudi na ceste, na običajne ceste. Enake mikročipe kot v teh dirkalnikih imajo namreč tudi tovornjaki. In vse je logično. Če vložiš milijone evrov v same gume, potem želiš te porabo teh milijonov skrbno nadzorovati.
In truck, they're looking more at mileage, longevity, whether it's to do with the casing being used as a retread or anything else. They can monitor all that with RFID technology. For us, we need to know how long the tyre was run for, what pressure it was run at, what temperatures it was run at, and any comments that come with that so that we can understand how we develop to move forward. That is tied to that specific set of tyres. So when it gets back to the factory and it's inspected, all the guy has to do is scan it, it links into the software, and all the information is there linked to the tyre.
Seveda, povezana guma pomeni tudi nadzor.
The FIA has a system at the end of the pit lane, and every time a car leaves the pit lane, they can pick up which specification of tyre it is, whether it's a wet, an intermediate, a slick. If we're using different compounds, they can tell which compound it is, and then that allocates it to that car for that stint of the race.
Ampak dirkanje je zelo občutno na običajnih cestah, tudi pri gumah, ki so namenjene za hitrejše kategorije.
Take your road car, be it a Fiat or a Ferrari, and take it out on a motorway and drive it as fast as it can go for 24 hours. And think of it, what's going to break, how long is it going to last? And these cars drive at that limit for 24 hours with drivers pushing them much harder than you or I could do, or even consider doing that. It's an amazing feat of engineering. And then you think of what we have to do with the tyres, and especially now, we have one specification of slick tyre that is doing all conditions throughout the race. We're in the peak heat of the day to the middle of the night where there's that bit of dew and moisture on the track and the drivers have to manage that. There's a lot going through on what we have to push, and in the race we've already seen teams doing nearly 700 kilometres on one set of tyres. You compare that to other racing series and what they do, it's not possible. 700 kilometres on one set of tyres. Everybody wants a tyre to go faster for longer, and that's why we come back to the endurance world. And the whole point of what we've done with the ultimate style track day tyre is you can drive the car to the circuit on the same tyre. You do your track day all day, and then you drive home at the end of it. You look at Focus RS's, you look at M2 competitions, the level of performance that you can purchase now as a general person is really extreme, and we have to make sure that we can make the tyres to do that. The Supersport range that we've produced now is actually derived from racing. With what we do in pure ETCR, and you look at the technology and the patterns, they're the same types of patterns we're using on the road, but then actually the compound technology now we're using in endurance racing is in the Supersport RS, and that's what we're bringing to the customer.
Lahko ocenimo, da so prav vzdržljivostne dirke tiste, ki najbolj poganjajo razvoj visoko zmogljivih cestnikov.
Spa-Francorchamps is one of those circuits that you can have minus 4 degrees in May when we do the race there, but you can also have plus 35 degrees, and it's a really old, aggressive surface. It's really open. It's what we say is more macro rough. And we're going to finish the season after Le Mans 24 Hour. We're going to Bahrain in the middle of the desert. We race from the day into the night again, so similar times of day to Le Mans, but completely different extreme again. It's a very longitudinal circuit, so it's very demanding on braking and very demanding on traction. And there's no real high-speed lateral corners where you're putting a lot of lateral load into the tyres. And then we come to Le Mans. And we have a road that's used by the public for the majority of the year, and then we close it for 24 hours to go motor racing. And you've got to think with the road surfaces, we have trucks, we have cars, we have buses, you know, all these different vehicles using it. That really wears the tarmac compared to what is used on a racetrack. But also then all the different materials and spillages and, you know, diesel pumping out the side of one of these trucks and all these things, it all has an impact on the surface. And when we're looking at the development phase of bringing tyres into this class, we have to understand that it's going to work on all these different extremes of Bahrain, of Spa, of Portimao, of Monza, Fuji, but then it's going to work for 24 hours at Le Mans on these two different surfaces in all these different temperatures.
Če si torej velik v Le Mansu, potem je tvoja tehnologija zaupanja vredna. In Le Mans je v svoji skoraj 100-letni zgodovini, samo še 2 leti manjkata do 100-letnice, res velikokrat pokazal svoje zobe. Največ zmag, kar 16, je dosegel Porsche. Audi je zmagal 13-krat. Ferrari 9-krat. Jaguar 7-krat, Bentley 5-krat, Alfa Romeo 5-krat, Ford 4-krat. Četrto zmago je letos zabeležila tudi Toyota. Ampak Toyota je bila večkrat osmoljena prav zaradi Peugeota. In Peugeot je letos napovedal vrnitev v Le Mans s dirkalnikom, ki ima kar nekaj drznih tehničnih rešitev.
So in the past, the rear wing was very mandatory because first you were pushing to the limit, which we're not anymore. The level of downforce on this generation of car is lower than it used to be. That's good for the racing. And also in the end, we are given more freedom to achieve it. So on one end, we're targeting something lower, on the other end, we are more free to do it. And the combination of the two makes it possible to achieve it without the rear wing. Interestingly, for us, it was just a small detail in the development process. I understand it makes a lot of buzz, but that's at least our interpretation of the regulation at the minute. And the regulation being very open, I think we have to expect many other manufacturers coming with other ideas and probably even more different concepts.
And you will not fly like Mercedes-Benz cars?
No, hopefully not.
Z novimi pravili so torej uradniki pristrigli peruti tem dirkalnikom, ampak ne zato, da se velika moštva ne bi preveč oddaljila od manj finančno močnih. Naloga novih pravil je predvsem tem, da se inženirji ne bodo ukvarjali z recimo temu vesoljsko tehnologijo, ampak s takšno tehnologijo, ki bo koristila nam vsem.
With the LMH regulation, we have the chance to promote technology that are quite relevant to our road cars. One of them is the four-wheel drive hybrid, with on that car hybrid system at the front. That's the regulation, and an internal combustion engine on the rear axle.
Ampak pri Peugeotu so bili zelo jasni. Ne. Prihodno leto bodo šli dirkati v Sebring, pa na Japonsko, pa v Bahrain, pa še kam drugam, v Le Mans. To pa še ni povsem odločeno. Najprej bodo seveda dirkalnik dobro stestirali, ker pač v Le Mans se ne greš hecat. Tja greš, če si pripravljen, pa še takrat veš, da bo šlo kaj narobe. Le Mans preprosto moraš spoštovati. Ne spomnim, da sem bil lansko jesen na Nürburgringu, na 24 urah Nürburgringa, in takrat bi si moral tisto dirko ogledati iz zraka, izza velikega balona, ki mu pravimo blimp oziroma cepelin. No, tokrat pa je uspelo. Če pa mislite, da na teh dirkah ta balon služi samo za promocijske namene, se motite. V resnici ta balon uporabljajo tudi snemalci, zato da posnamajo kadre, kakršen je tale. Točno ta leteča ladja pa je zaznamovala tudi poletje v Sloveniji. Točno ta gigantski balon je poletel tudi nad Ljubljano pa nad Bledom. In v njem sta bila tudi dva izmed vas, gledalcev avtomobilnosti.
Zanimiv podatek.
V bistvu pilotiranje tega ni tako enostavno, da je kar zahtevno, da ko si enkrat pilot, vseeno potrebuje še 2 leta izkušenj, da lahko dejansko pilotiraš tele balone, ker pač enostavno tukaj so potrebne samo izkušnje.
Da je največji v bistvu zrakoplov takega formata na svetu.
Da smo mi leteli na višini 300 metrov, dejansko lahko gre sicer do 3000 metrov višine.
Mi smo šli, mislim, da 60 km na uro, največ pa mislim, da gre približno 130. Se je kar veliko slik naredili, upam, da bojo kakšne dobre. Najlepši je bil pa Bled, jezero. Je kar zamikalo, da bi šel malo zaplavati.
In zagotovo smo vas zdaj malce podražili, zagotovo vas zdaj že zanima, kako ta velika reč deluje. No, imamo video za vas in naj bo to vaš naslednji klik.